Hello everyone. Welcome to Filmcopat. In this new video podcast, we celebrate one of the modern pillars of Indian cinema, something which set the trope for numerous new age films based on friendship in India, like Rock On and Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, a film released in the year 2001 but still very fresh and contemporary. Today we celebrate 20 years of Dil Chahta Hai. Dil Chahta Hai was written and directed by Farhan Akhtar, with Amir Khan, Akshay Khanna, and Saif Ali Khan in the lead. The movie won the National Award for the Best Feature Film in Hindi in 2002. To discuss this brilliant movie, we have with us Harshit Bansal. Harshit is the founder of the Humans of Cinema Group. They are one of the very few Indian channels who have focused on international cinema content along with Indian content with significant contributions. We are big fans of their work. If you haven't done it yet, please follow them on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to their YouTube channel. They do some fabulous work, which you should definitely check out. Harshit, welcome to Filmcopat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shubhadeep. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start our discussion on Dil Chahta Hai by first asking each of you, and I think maybe I can also share some experience here. What was the first experience of watching Dil Chahta Hai? Because it was a very, very unique movie when it came out, like 20 years ago. Nothing like that we had seen. And what was the standout aspect of it for you guys? When you watched
honestly,
it for the first
I
time?
don't remember the first time I saw it because I must have been really young. Because I must have been 5 or 6 years old when the film came out. Okay. So I don't remember the first time when I must have seen it, but I did definitely see it a lot of times when it used to be on TV when I was a kid. But I can tell you that the first time that I saw it after growing up again, because when I had a better sense of films, etc. I just couldn't. That film hasn't left me. It's just one of those films. Even when we were kids, it was a film that just stayed with us throughout, right? But after I grew up, especially, that is a film that I can just talk about that film, and I keep thinking about that film. The standout aspect for me, though, there are too many. There are too many. Every aspect of the film. I think just the biggest achievement of the film is almost like completely changing the way that films were being made in mainstream Hindi cinema. Which is something that we always talk about. But I think the more we talk about, the less it is because of how significant it was. Because I was seeing this interview of Akshay Khanna the other day with Mayank Shekhar, and he was talking about how something as simple as ADs, the concept of ADs wasn't there before Dil Chahta Hai came in. Because have you seen that interview where he's talking about this?
Yeah. No, I did not.
I saw
that the sets were so unprofessional before that. There probably were assistants, of course, because it's not possible for a film to work to be made without assistants because director won't do everything. But probably it wasn't as structured, because I think he was talking about how ADs started having walkie-talkies in their heads, and everything was very structured, very organized, etc. And you can see that discipline in the film as well.
Yeah.
And even after so many years, the film, barring a few things, the film has aged so well as well, and that's a huge achievement in itself when it comes to Hindi cinema, right?
Absolutely. We were just talking about how contemporary and fresh it is actually, even if you watch it today, that there is a definite amount of freshness in the movie. Arnab, so let me come to you. What is your first memory of Dil Chahta Hai? Watching Dil Chahta, and what was the standout aspect for you to watch it? When you watched it first time?
So that time I used to be even a bigger Amir Khan fan. I remember Lagan got released in month of June, and that time we were all bold to see the movie. Literally and figuratively, I use the word bold here. So I remember buying the cassette of Dil Chahta Hai. The music was so fresh. I think it was Shankar Loy's debut then. The music, the use of I think bongo and the Dil Chahta Hai reprise version. So that caught my attention. And I was pushing people to listen to the songs, but they were like, okay, you are Amir Khan fan, that's the reason and all. But and then the movie got released on 10th of August. So that time there were a few people in my school who used to have a computer. So I was one of them, and we had even I have watched Lagan by then twice in the theater, but still I had some, I can use the word then, a pirated copy of Lagan, a CD of that. So what happened was like that time I was not that much into theater. I didn't used to go to theater that much. It only happened once I entered college. So half of the class, some rainy day or something happened. It was declared a holiday. Half of the class went to Joya to watch Dil Chahta Hai. It's one of the single screen. Unfortunately, there was a fire recently. Yeah. And rest of the classroom came to my home to watch Lagan, and we were watching Lagan. Then the Dil Chahta ended, and that lot straight away came to our house saying, "Man, forget everything, go watch the movie." So I was like, "What?" And they almost like explained the whole story about how the friendship, and they could identify with the friendship, jumping on, going to Goa. Obviously, we couldn't go to Goa, but anyway, for us, going to maybe 10 kilometers from Salt Lake was a thing that time.
I think this going to Goa culture has come
Mhm.
because of Dil Chahta. I
Because
think
Dil
this
Chahta Hai.
Dil Chahta Hai brought in this friends going to Goa for party, and then I think somehow Dil Chahta is contributed to Goa tourism in a big way.
Then when I
Oh,
watched Dil Chahta Hai after maybe
hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, or after all this hype and all, so it was already hyped up, but it still lived up to the expectation of the hype. The first thing what I liked then was like how realistically it showed friendship. We were in 11, 12 standard, but still we can understand that previously that ye dosti hum nahi todenge types, that like friendship going till they do us apart kind of thing that used to happen and all. We realize, yeah, these are normal people, normal friends who are fighting just like we do. There is a gap, there is a separation, and then they again come back. All that stuff that was very fresh for me, and also the three different love stories. And if you see that closely, they were very unique. Maybe the Amir Khan Priti Zinta one in the second half was a little cliche, but still it was unique of that time actually. So
okay.
those were the first thing that like caught my attention, and then over the year, as Harshit has rightly said, that it has aged so well. Even now, I can understand that the fight that happened between Amir Khan and Akshay Khanna's character, Akash and Sid, that was so real. Oh, now like at this moment, because of very different ideological thing differences and all, like I have drifted apart from few of my friends and all. We had a fight last 2 years, and we don't talk. I'm sure that somewhere maybe down the line 5 6 years there will be a reunion like sort. So that's reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Arup, I'd like to come to you now. Tell me about your standout aspect of the movie, because I think most has been covered by Harshit and Arnav. You talk about the standout aspect. Also, tell me about your favorite character and why do you like them?
Standout aspect, again, I think most of the things are covered. But what I felt in Dil Chahta Hai is that film which made everything that we had watched in mainstream Hindi before pretty dated. You know, Gadar released with Lagan, and Gadar was actually a bigger box office hit than Lagan, if you go by box office numbers only. Had Gadar released after Dil Chahta Hai, it might not have worked that well because all the Gadars were made dated by Dil Chahta Hai. So that is the standout aspect for me. It kind of is a juncture where this kind of thing, this kind of real life characters in movies came. Like you might have seen bromance in Jaya and Viru, and Sholay is of course a great film and nothing against it. But all those friendships in Hindi mainstream cinema had some stakes to pursue. Jai and Viru have to kill Gabbar Singh, and there's the bromance which is the subtext or the subplot. Here they have no stakes. They are just friends. They are loitering around. They are fighting. That's it. That is all about. And then there are their lives taking them to different directions. So that was a very unique thing. And we kind of, I mean, I remember my experience, and when I spoke to my friends, we were not habituated of seeing this kind of a thing, this kind of a casual, cool stuff in Hindi mainstream before. So that's what happened. Talking about favorite character, I mean, three of them are superb. Even I was watching it few days back, so I am still split for choice. But if I have to go by which character, I think Akshay Khanna. One thing that I really, really liked about Akshay Khanna is he was the most mature of the lot, and yet he is not holier than thou. When he is around his friends, he does not express. There is no arrogance of maturity. which you find in a lot of other films. Like if I talk about Three Idiots and if I talk about Rancho, there is I mean, I'm not telling arrogance in the, as arrogance like that, but there is, on the drop of a hat, he will tell, you have to do this and you have to do that. Why don't you do this? But Akshay Khanna is at his own corner. If he is asked, he will answer in one line. But when he is in that, corner where he has to take the decision, he takes that mature decision. And the way Akshay Khanna actually portrayed that character is marvelous. I mean, there are some great scenes, there are some great sequences where we have Akshay Khanna. So he is my standout. He is my favorite there. Siri.
Awesome. Harshit, what about you? Who's your favorite character?
Yeah, again, very difficult to choose. I like all of them. I like all of their character arcs. But I think just going by the most significant character development in the film, which happens in Amir Khan's character, I think I just like his whole arc a lot, because I think he has the most significant, most significant, just from a storytelling point of view also, he has the most significant three-arc,
Yes.
like a three-act storytelling format also. You can see things happening to him. And of course, he goes from being this very immature, almost childish guy who doesn't really care about what he's saying. Of course, he's disrespectful towards women. He's this guy that we have seen around. Maybe we have also been that person at some point in our lives. And,
right.
And he goes from that to being this person who we have seen where he's driving in his car. Then he's passing by his college. He sees that there's that scene where he sees himself and his other two friends from the past, and that's a really important moment, because this is the moment where we can see his growth actually there on the screen. That represents his growth. That represents where he has come from to where he is now, because he's looking at it both with fondness, because he's happy with the growth that he has had, but at the same time there's a part of it that he's missing, which is his past, just in terms of his friends, because he knows that he fucked up. So he's looking at it with fondness only from the point of view of that, I'm glad that I'm not the same guy anymore. But at the same time, I just wish that this part of my life where I was with my friends, I just wish that could come back. And the very next scene, he goes to the hospital to meet Akshay Khanna and Saif Ali Khan. So, I mean, I just like his whole character journey a lot. Also, especially the song Tanhai. I love that. I mean, that song is just so close to my heart, because especially when I was going through a tough time in my own life, I used to listen to that song so much. And it's very cliche, but
we all have done that.
I will tell you, Harshit, there are two songs. One Tanhai and one Tadap Tadap Ke Is Dil Se Aa Nikalti Rahi. These are the lover boy songs of India. People
and there is another RH Stadium, Sach Keh Raha Hai Deewana. All these three.
Yes,
we have played it with a gloomy face and thinking about someone at some point in our life.
But Harshit,
no, but the great thing about Tanhai is that doesn't necessarily have to be a breakup song also, It's just a song about, it's just a song that can represent loneliness. It can represent, I mean, just gloom, sadness, melancholy, all of it. And the way that they have filmed it, that was also so original. I mean, now, of course, the kind of things that, the kind of filming techniques that have been used in that song, now you can see it in a lot of films. But back then, especially in Hindi cinema, it was such an original way of shooting a song, and all the songs, for that matter, all the songs in the film have been shot in such a unique way. All the songs almost represent their own stories. Be it Kaisi Hai Ye Rut, be it Jaane Ki Log Pyar Karte Hain, all of them are music videos in themselves,
Yeah.
And thanks for bringing up that scene. Like, if you think of that, like when Amir Khan is stuck in the traffic signal, like he's looking at his past. There was one moment when the past Akash is looking at the present, and he is doing like, like something where he's realizing the thing which he has done is probably wrong. And if you see the cut, the next scene is the light is green and he is moving on to the hospital, whereby like
Yes,
he
yes.
was like stuck in it happens between friends. We often like our ego, child ego supersedes the matured ego, and we think like, okay, no, what we have done is right, and we will not meet that person. So something
We
also,
might know that what we have done is wrong, but yet we do not do the right thing.
yeah.
I remember I was in class 8th and I had a best friend from. So when the film came out, I was just 5 or 6. So I'm talking about almost like a lot of years after that, probably even 10 years or something after that, or whatever, 6, 7 years after that. But I had just fought with a very close friend of mine who used to be my best friend. So we literally were we used to hang out with each other in school, etc. And we had once gone on this vacation or something like that had happened, and the two of us fought, and we fought very badly. Like there was hathabai happening. So that's what everyone used to say. Ki, that inka to Sameer or Akash wala scene ho gaya, because that film became, even now, when
Akash
two
and
friends
Sid.
fight, that's what we think of. When we
Yeah.
were kids, even then, that's what you used to think about. Even now, when two friends will fight, because that's the kind of impact that that film has had on us, and on Indian pop culture, and on Indian people in our generation, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Arup actually talked about Akshay Khanna and Harshit talked about Amir Khan. So Arnav, tell me, how does your love life resemble Saif Ali Khan's character's love life? So you please contribute on that front.
Interestingly, interestingly, so in my school days, like there was a point one of my friend told, I was in maybe class 9 or something, that if a girl probably talks to Arnav for 2 3 days, he will fall in love with her. So so yeah, kind of, even though I never thought of like that in terms of Samir, because I like the Akash more, maybe more so because of Amir Khan, maybe whatever, but yeah. So Samir somewhere represents majority of Indian male, uh, I would say.
Yeah.
They're like little confused about what they want, whom they like, and someone like Samir, who, like, one important thing here we have to note that these all people, they're like from an affluent background. Say they don't have to worry about many other things of life, which I realized with Samir, it was the more thing. He knew that okay, he will be I think they also had a family business or something.
Yeah.
It was never shown, but
Computers.
he's well settled
Computers.
on that front. But he was more so like, okay, ye ladki nahi mere ko wo pasand hai and all. That was very relatable, even from anyone from, I mean, even though that character is shown at a mid 20s and all, but someone who like me, who are in their formative years, they could relate with that clumsiness of the character. And there is another aspect of Samit, that he needs always the assurance from either Akash or Sid. If you think that he's asking every time, and when someone he's either swayed by what Sid is saying or Akash is saying, that whole particular sequence, mard ban be a man, usko dikha de कि अब तेरा जगह कहाँ है, kind of thing. And a whole sequence, and that Samir is like, yeah, I have to show that. That thing, I was not like that but I have seen people like that, like who are easily swayed by people, like friends and all around. So yeah, that made the character very realistic, and the comedy that is arising out of that situation. It was never misplaced. It was never forced.
Yeah.
It was never slapstick. And the interesting part when I'm talking about Samir, the way Subodh was created, like Subodh, that guy, that could have gone into borderline slapstick, but it was never like that. That character is like that in
Yes.
his own Zen mode. 5 बजे उठना है, 5:30 बजे योगा करना है, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
this character who is always on his mind, something is going on in Sami's mind. Everything, like he is not that guy who will just sit and relax, kind of. So the contradiction of those two whenever they meet and the comedy arise of it, that made
Yeah.
even Samir even more interesting, and
Right.
the
Yeah.
overall character.
The comedy of the film was actually so subdued,
Mhm.
because even like, forget that time, yeah, even now there are such few films where we get comedy that is so perfectly balanced. um where the comedy is only arising. It was almost, I have often thought about how Dil Chahta Hai could be extended into a sitcom in itself, because the kind of world that Farhan Akhtar tried to create, I do feel that he was very strongly inspired from American sitcoms. And also, if you even now, even today, you watch Farhan Akhtar's interviews, his sense of humor, you will understand that it does get reflected in Dil Chahta Hai very well, because it does feel very Americanized, and it does feel, and especially in his writing, it's very apparent that he was influenced from a lot of American comedy, because in India, even in the 90s, comedy meant Johnny Lever and Govinda. Did we have any comedy films which had the kind of humor that this film tried to bring in? I can't think of any.
Yeah, there might be Rishikesh Mukherjee, but it is very different from what we had in Dil Chahta Hai. It is very much American sitcom.
Even Rishikesh Mukherjee. I love Rishikesh Mukherjee in Basu Chatterjee films. Basu Chatterjee actually could be a little closer still to the kind of writing, but Rishikesh Mukherjee's films still, they were also, the comedy, it was, the comedy was very out there in terms of, you could see that it has been written as a comedy film.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
There were situations that had been created in Golmaal, be it in Chup Chup Ke, but in this film, in Dil Chahta Hai, the comedy was just in the writing.
Writing
there were
on the
situations.
situation.
I think Ashme Badur can come a little bit closer when I think about Ashme Badur as a movie.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, actually. Some films from that era do fit very well. But especially in mainstream Hindi cinema, I feel like, that film, and even now, over the years, I just feel like, now we are seeing some films which are doing that kind of writing. But we had a huge slump in between. For that matter, I also feel like Dil Chahta Hai, even though it was such a big hit, it still did not create a culture of similar storytelling, of especially like urban, just good urban stories being told. It did not create a culture, which is interesting, because otherwise, whenever a film becomes successful, there's a culture that gets created. For example, what happened with Gangs of Wasseypur, for example. Then we only started getting films which are similar to Gangs of Wasseypur.
A little contradiction, because Dil Chahta was not a big hit. It turned 14 crores and it was average. So probably that's the reason the culture might not have been created, and that time multiplex was not there as well. And that time Lagan collected 29 point some crores and Gadar collected 60 crores. So Gadar has a footfall of over 5 crore, which at this point can be like 800 crores like thing. So somewhere, I think it was Dil Chahta Hai was maybe very restricted to very urban pockets. Maybe that's the reason.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But what helped with Gangs of Wasseypur is that multiplex culture. If there would have been multiplex culture, that would have changed. But that's for sure that with Dil Chahta Hai as well, there was a change. There was a shift in the tonality, but it was still not fully there till multiplex came. But interestingly, that happened with Satya. Satya changed the gangster landscape completely. Then after Company, Sarkar, even Ab Tak Chappan, all these movies that has that essence of Satya. But Dil Chahta Hai, I think it didn't change that much at that point in time.
This is something I often think about that. But yeah, you're right. I think it's in retrospect that we think that it was a very successful film, but it probably wasn't. We think that it was successful because of how much we speak about it.
Right.
What I was trying to say while we were talking about comedy is one thing just came to my mind about this character Deepa. You remember there was this lady who was always pursuing Amir Khan and calling out. So that is a kind of character we had in so many movies, who would be a comic relief kind of a character, who would always pursue the the hero, and she would be dumped. There would be fun at her cost. And in Dil Chahta Hai, later we have this beautiful sequence with Akshay Khanna, where this lady has been given that, respect and the value. There's so nice dialogues between them, meaning that, as Harshit was pointing out, the film was like, the comedy was organic. It was not meant to be and put like pieces of, comic set pieces put and, kind of placed into the script to have at regular intervals. It was organic, and I really loved the way they gave respect to that character and that scene.
And
Yes, yes.
interesting that if you see Deepa was so there is thing like someone might say here that Shubodh didn't get that respect,
Mm.
but maybe because Shubodh as a character, we have seen such characters where it's futile exercise to talk about something so deep, which Akshay Seed has with Deepa in that scene where they
Yeah.
talk about that sand in hand, the रेत ऐसे फिसल जाते हैं and all
Yeah, and
that
I
analogy.
feel, you actually feel Deepa is in love with Amir Khan. But I am not sure about if Subodh was that much in love with Sonali Kulkarni's character. He was not even okay to go for a drive or a date, and always, kind of bothered about his timelines as well. Maybe, I mean, just thinking aloud.
Actually, since I think Harshit and Arnav both talked about that Dil Chahta Hai didn't quite bring out the culture of similar urban films, but we have some examples and I will discuss of them. Like may not be exactly on similar lines, but we do have a Rock On, which talked about friends coming together and of course with the purpose of making a band. We have Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, where also we have urban rich friends coming together. So what do you think about these films when you compare it to a certain Dil Chahta Hai? Do you think they have built upon it better, or do you think they do not quite have that vibe of Dil Chahta Hai? So anybody can take it.
Rock On for me didn't age well. I mean, just like personally, when I see the movie, uh, I don't see the connect which I have with Dil Chahta Hai. But interestingly, I saw Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara recently. That has the vibe of Dil Chahta Hai, and there are a few sequences and the camaraderie between the friends that I find relatable as well. But one thing, obviously, one of my friend recently told that Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara and Dil Chahta Hai, they talk about rich kids. So I don't relate with them at all. But I keep on telling them that forget about the reach part. Even otherwise, if you just take a cycle or like a small car, something, go to Mondarmoni from Kolkata, but the vibe can still be the same. So yeah, I just feel that Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, it's somewhat close to Dil Chahta Hai, if not full in terms of that essence. Though it is a different story altogether.
Harshit, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, see, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, though, I don't think that film would have existed if Dil Chahta Hai wasn't there before. That too, for sure. Like, even considering that Zoe Akhtar made it, etc. I mean, I sometimes do. I mean, Dil Chahta is a lovely. Sorry, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara is a lovely film. I sometimes still do think that's very interesting and odd, also to an extent, that she made such a similar film, despite having been a part of the first one, also as a team member. she put in Farhan Akhtar only as one of the actors in the film. I mean, it's interesting and odd at the same time. But otherwise, see, what I was talking about earlier, specifically about, I was mainly talking about urban films and maybe not about friendship films. Friendship films, I think it's very difficult to still make a new friendship film which can replicate or even topple the magic of Dil Chahta Hai, I'm specifically talking about, because, for example, did you guys see the new show that came out by TV Aspirants?
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
TV show
I've seen
Aspirants,
it.
right?
I've
So
seen it.
even in Aspirants, you can see the influence of Dil Chahta Hai. They
Yes,
even
yes.
refer to
Yeah,
it at
very
one
much.
point, right? They even refer to it,
Yes.
where
Yeah, they refer to it.
the
Yeah.
Abhilash character says that मैं यहाँ पे समीर हूँ, तुम आकाश और वो जो भी. But I'm talking about just the space, just the world that Dil Chahta Hai was set in. I think that world wasn't continued further, any further, because I mean, it's difficult to say. For example, all the Ayushmann Khurrana films, right? They have created this culture and they have created this world, which is the world of small town, but upper middle class India, where all of these Ayushmann Khurrana films are set and they're talking about a particular social issue, etc.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that world. And I think that we don't have a lot of films from that space, because I'm not saying that there's a lack of representation or any of that. Just the thing is that that particular space gives the scope of telling a lot of stories which are difficult to tell otherwise, which are just stories of people where you don't really have to care about any social complexities as such, because as I think Arup was also saying before, there was something that you said. मेरे को भी एकदम से याद नहीं आ रहा.
There were no stakes as such for the characters.
Yeah. Exactly. There were no stakes as such for the characters because of the kind of background that they were coming with. So they could tell story. They could just tell the story of these three characters and the friendship, which is so interesting, which is difficult to tell otherwise, right? I think we did get, like, for Lakshay, for example, in Lakshay, so another Farhan Akhtar film that tried to, and there were some. Then we have, otherwise we have rom-coms, or we have romantic stories where we get urban stories, right? For example, Hasi to Fasi and all of these films. I think just stories of people. You know, it doesn't have to be friendship only. It can just be stories of people, which is majority of American independent films. For example, they are stories of people from the upper middle class or even rich households, and they're just their stories. That's what I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense, because if you know, we have to actually appreciate the set design of Dil Chahta Hai on that ground, because we previously, or we even do have, you know, those kind of films like a Suraj Barjatia film or something like a Prem Ratan Dhan Payo, where you have swimming pools inside the hero's house and people are dancing around that. There are, you know, cradles and swings and all of that. Say for Dil Chahta Hai, they are showing they are from the affluent class, but think about Samir's room. One room. This person lives in a room. It's a small room. There are certain books and photos of friends. Similarly, Akash's room is a bit bigger, but it's also a room. It's not like a very lavish living, like we see in a lot of other films where we saw the hero is very rich.
They're not shoving the richness in your face.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that is someone unconsciously there, I still feel. But obviously, like, Zindagi Na Mile Dobara ho. How can, like, people go to just
it is
go for a road trip
unconscious.
with them?
No, it is unconscious, but it's just honest storytelling. The man,
Yeah,
I
that
think,
maybe because they are from the similar household. Maybe that's the reason it comes organically.
the difference is that probably Suraj Barjatia's whatever the Barjatias also come from similar households. But for them, it was important for them to tell the story in such an exorbitant and glamorous way that they want to sensationalize the richness, you know. But this guy, he just wanted to tell his own story with as much honesty as possible, which is not something that used to happen before again. And he knew that he probably could tell that story with the utmost honesty only this way, by just replicating whatever he was seeing around in his house,
Right.
which probably made the story so
Even the room, the wardrobe, they were also, you know, so with the characters. If you see Akshay Khanna's, costumes, like, you know, light pastel shades and all of that, and Amir's and Saib's. And I think Dil Chahta Hai actually got a lot of fashion statements, particularly for the male. You know, the goatee and all of those, you know, kind of a disciplined haircut Dil Chahta Hai brought into the, you know, our people. We were like, you know, thinking about the big hairs like a Mithun and Salman Khan and Sanjay Dutt at that time. So that was also a shift. The fashion shift was also brought by
the fashion shift.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, the goatee was definitely a thing. I remember after Dil Chahta Hai actually came out. I think Dil Chahta Hai is one of the factors which works so very well for Dil Chahta Hai is the music of Dil Chahta Hai. Like you have actually also talked about it, about how it actually takes the story forward. It's not about a relief for you, but it is actually a tool through which you are moving the narrative forward. So what do you think about the music of it? What's your favorite song and its picturization? Let me start with Arup this time.
Favorite song, I think Tanhai, you know, Harshit mentioned Tanhai so well. It's absolutely one favorite. I love Jaane Kyun Log Pyar Karte Hain. Whole, you know, picturization and their playfulness, and that I really love. The tune is so nice, and you get to see Australia and all of that, and I really like that one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of the songs and the sequences are really good, but I think that one for me.
Harshit, apart from Tanhai, you want to talk about any other song which you really like?
Yeah, all. I mean, you know, I like all the songs for different reasons. I love Koi Kahe Kehta Rahe because every time I'm at a party with my friends and that song plays, you know, everyone goes crazy. So that's a song I like. If I have to, if I'm partying, if I'm dancing. Dil Chahta Hai is a song that I have to listen to if I'm traveling. No, it's just, all of those, all the songs have, all the songs are special for different reasons. Jaane Kyun Log Pyar Karte Hain is again a song that I think has hardly ever left my playlist. Tanhai, Kaisi Hai Ye Rut also I love so much. It's very difficult to choose, honestly.
Right.
And also
ये
this
लड़की
one.
वो लड़की है कहाँ?
Yeah.
And I think वो लड़की है कहाँ? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Did we have this kind of a retro,
Yes,
costume and people in retro dresses before वो लड़की है कहाँ? We have so
no,
many
Not
after
that I
that.
remember. It might have been, but it was not done so well. Like the vibe
like
could easily come that it is
Yes.
Babita and
Yeah.
Jitendra, and from there
Shammi
to Madhuri Dixit.
Kapoor,
Yeah,
Madhuri Dixit. Yeah. So
like
that's
it was
that.
very evident. And I think like a lot of praise should have been given to Shonali Kulkarni as well, because like she was not imitating, but the way she was carrying out her, like the wardrobe as well as the moves, like it was evident. After that, many people tried, but like it was not so successful like the one there.
Yeah.
And Dil Chahta Hai, the song, I think it's an epitome of friendship, kind of become a friendship anthem.
All right. I think before we end this conversation, everybody has to come up with one scene, one of their favorite scenes from Dil Chahta Hai. So why don't we begin with Harshit this time? Harshit, pick a scene from Dil Chahta Hai which you really like.
Favorite scene? I think my favorite scene has to be the slap scene. Sorry, Sid slap on Akash.
Yeah.
I just like that scene a lot. Everything about that scene. I think I've seen it at least, especially that scene a lot of times. Maybe not the whole film, but I just keep rewatching that scene a lot of times because I just like everything about it. I like the way that everyone has acted in it. I like the way that the scene has been composed. It's so subtle yet so impactful.
And
I like the way that's been written.
And I think that's the last time Amir Khan took a slap from anyone else in a film. After that, he was always in the giving end.
Yeah. Arnav, what about you?
That scene which Harshit mentioned, the last one and the traffic, and the another one where they're in the Sapura fort looking at the shape and the horizon and telling जे
वो जहाज देख रहे हो
वो जहाँ जहाँ है वो एक साल में 10 बार क्या कभी ये हो सकता है कि 10 साल में एक बार भी हम मिल नहीं सकते and that at this point in time and this juncture of life I find that very 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 real. Even both the slap one has the one dialogue, जरूरी नहीं है कि हम एक दूसरे से हर चीज में सहमत हो. India needs to listen to the dialogue so much at this point, but and even within our friends and also, I find those two scenes like the dialogues very relatable.
Right. Arup, what about you?
I love that scene in the Sydney subway between Preeti Zinta and Amir Khan. They are playful. They do not realize they love each other, and then one gets into the train, the other cannot, and then that spark. And I also love that the following sequence where Preeti is sitting and this man is approaching her. We do not know what he would have done actually. And when we see Amir descending the stairs, we see him coming, that smile in Preeti's face that this person has come and this person I wanted to come, that scene is very nice. That scene is also very touching. I feel that was a very nice and subtle way of telling that they love each other, because before that climax scene in the Sangeet where Amir Khan comes, they never talk to each other and tell they love each other, right? But that was the scene where they realized, both of them, that what's the connection between the two. Yeah, so that's it.
Yes.
Right.
And yours?
And I'm going to pick something which is a little bit different. If you remember, there's this scene between Dimple Kapadia's character and Akshay Khanna, and Dimple Kapadia is very happy that her daughter is coming to visit her after so many years, and the husband calls and cancels it. And then Akshay Kumar takes her to her birthday party. Sorry, Akshay Khanna. Sorry, Akshay Khanna, Amir Khan, and like all three of them, all three friends come together, and there is this song playing for there's Ina Meena Dika, I think. There's this song
Ina Meena Dika.
Yes. And Amir Khan's character dances with Dimple Kapadia's character.
Yes.
And you see that at first there is anxiousness on Dimple's face. You see that she's not like into vibing with it. and then after some time, she really starts to enjoy it. Like she comes on her own. So I think that little sequence actually tells a different beautiful story
Yes, yes.
about her character as well. So that is something which I really enjoy.
There is another side as well. If you see Sid is also anxious and like conscious whether like how their friends will accept her. So
Yeah.
you could see that in his face as well.
Mhm.
Anyway, that
Also,
translates into that particular slap scene. But yep.
Yeah.
another thing I really love about that scene, thanks for mentioning that, is before that, in Dimple's apartment, when she was crying and Sid goes near her and consoles her and all. In any other film, they would have, made out, maybe, they would have gone physically close. But here, he switches to the three friends. Like Arnav was saying that Sami always goes to his friends because they have that connection. The girls that he was falling in love or infatuated with did not have a connection that he would be swayed away by them. And Akshay as well, who is the more introvert, the brooding person, also falls, kind of goes to his friends for shelter where he needs to console his lady. So,
Right.
in a very different and subtle ways, they show the connection. It's not about only when they are interacting with each other; it's also how they find shelter in each other.
Right. Right.
And they have
Yes,
kept it
yes.
like that. And even at the last scene, like you've seen, Samir is still little clumsy when they're meeting after a gap. And Akash is always a little street smart. You'll see those one-liners kind of dialogue. वैसे भी perfection को improve करना मुश्किल होता है. So
We definitely need to
Yeah.
mention Saif Ali Khan. You know what Dil Chahta Hai was for him. I mean, till that point, he was okay. I mean, not even okay. He was
not even
below
okay.
average, maybe. And then that film actually made, gave him the pedestal to rise and rise and rise.
Ryzen, Ryzen. And he's
Right.
probably
That's
one of the
right.
best actors, I would say, from the star category. Just I remember one scene, like sorry, though that was borderline slapstick when they come to meet in the restaurant, like Shubodh and Sonali Kulkarni's character, they're sitting and Saib like,
Every guy
oh,
comes.
you guys are here, and then he casually pulls the chair and the lady falls down. He doesn't even look at all. This patient kid. I'm sure there might have been some sound or something. This bullshit.
Yeah, that's a funny, that's a nice.
Yeah, that is funny. Actually, yes, yes. All right. I think we will wrap it up now. But before I wrap it up, I have one final question. So, do you guys think that Dil Chahta Hai is Farhan Akhtar's best work?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I think so.
I mean,
As his
that is
best work,
very
as an
obvious.
out of his whole filmography, acting,
As
direction,
a
everything.
direction, I think as a
As a-
director, do you
As a
think?
director, though, without a doubt, yeah. As a director,
Yeah, hands down,
without a
yes.
doubt.
Laksha first half was good, but yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
would say so?
hardly has a competition, right? Laksha is good, but the Dons. I mean, I really don't know from Dil Chahta Hai why we did not get something at par or even close to Dil Chahta Hai for Farhan.
Yeah, we really hope that Farhan will rediscover himself and we will get something
Yeah.
cult in
No, yeah,
future.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he definitely needs to come back to his original roots, which are Dil Chahta Hai.
Mhm.
That is what he's most maybe the only reason that he shifted to more commercial films is because he wanted to make money. And as I actually did not know, and as Arnab told us today, that the film did not make enough money, and that is a problem that I think a lot of filmmakers have to navigate through. That no matter how much people are loving the film, if it's not making money, it doesn't feel worth it. Plus, it could actually ruin your career if the films that you're making are not making money.
Right.
And maybe he had more vision as a producer, and he has produced a lot of great films over the years.
Yes.
But yeah, I really hope that somehow he's able to kind of start making films at lower budgets but tell stories like Dil Chahta Hai, because now he can, because now he has a lot of money, right?
Right. I hope so. Absolutely. On that note from Harshit, I would like to urge our viewers to watch more experimental cinema, to watch new things so that people are encouraged more and more to be brave in their filmmaking. So movies need to make profit, guys. You need to go out and support independent cinema. You need to go out and support unique scripts. Harshit, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure interacting with you and getting your
Thanks,
insights on the movies which we discussed.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much, Shubhadeep, Arup, and Arnab. See you guys soon.